Hello and welcome to Rob from the Internet Talks About Beer, a show where we discuss different styles of beer, beer history, beer flavor profiles. We give shout outs to breweries we think make exceptional beer, and we talk about whatever else happens to come to mind during the course of the conversation. I'm Rob from the Internet. Let's talk about beer. All right, so joining me today is Sean from Draft Therapy. Sean, if you could, tell me a little bit about yourself, how you got into craft beer, and what you do when you're not talking to schlubs like me about craft beer.
Well, I'm Sean from Draft Therapy. As you mentioned, I run a YouTube channel basically more focused on Michigan beer. We have a lot of breweries in the state, over 300, 350, something like that. It seems like it's growing every day. So I just kind of started this channel a couple of years ago because I wanted to start talking about craft beer, kind of show everybody what beer around here was about. Basically, I figured rather than chasing all these beers that I would probably never get a chance to try, beers out of California like Pliny the Elder or, Heady Topper or beers from the States that are just huge, I figured I'd focus on Michigan because it was something that was easy for me to get and easy to go to a tap room and go pick up a release or whatnot. So I've been doing this for a
Right.
few years now. I'll do brewery profiles. I'll go to breweries, go to beer fests here in Michigan, interview brewers, talk about their story. I just kind of want to educate, you know, the people here in the state might not be aware of certain kinds of beers or certain kinds of styles or certain breweries that might be, right around the corner from them. So that's kind of like the focus of what I try to do. I do talk about beers outside of Michigan occasionally. It's nice to mix it up once in a while. Outside of doing this channel, I like talking about beer. I do it a lot. A lot of my friends that, uh, that's what we talk about. I mean, other things too, but I in my spare time that I'm not talking about beer professionally, I am a business analyst. So I do a lot of, analysis on reporting, statistics, stuff like that for the business that I work for. I got into craft beer years and years ago, probably 20 plus years ago at this point, and just looking for an alternative from the Budweisers, the Coors, Miller, stuff like that, macro stuff. Uh, Went into that for a couple years, kind of took a break from it a few years after, a few years into it. And then when I started this channel, I really, I had started kind of getting back into beer. And this was like a way for me doing a channel like this. I'd always wanted to, talk about beer. So it just kind of led me back into it and getting into stuff like, really pushing me outside my comfort zone to try beers that I'd never tried before. So it's been a real eye-opening experience.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Michigan is Ontario's neighbor, so we're pretty familiar with a lot of the beers that are there. But it'll be nice to get perspective on ones that we might not know about around here. I'm actually originally from the States, so I traveled quite a bit to 46 of the 50 states, and I've had beer in 46 of the 50 states of the United States. So I know a few breweries in Michigan, but it'll be nice to get a few that I can hit when I'm headed back towards the hometown of Rockford, Illinois. So there's plenty of opportunity to drive through Michigan and make side trips to breweries. Everyone up here is intimately familiar with New Holland because Dragon's
Yep.
Milk is extremely popular here in Ontario. If you ask people about what their favorite United States craft stout is, 9 times out of 10 they're going to say it's going to be Dragon's Milk because it's just so prevalent here.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, no, and to be fair, I mean it's a fine stout, and some of their varietals that they make are absolutely fantastic.
Oh yeah, and I really enjoy that they do a couple different kind of plays on that style every year. They have two
Yep.
or three special varietals that come out, and it's like, oh, okay, that's kind of, and they sometimes revisit old ones, so that's nice too if you didn't get a chance the first time around or you wanted to try it again.
Right. Yeah. So to this date, my favorite one that they ever released was they did a vanilla chai latte version of Dragon's Milk Stout, and it was absolutely to die for. And I think it was like a one off. I don't know that they've ever done it again, but it was absolutely fantastic. And I have dreams of that stout sometimes. I'm like, oh, this would be so good if it was just a little bit more like.
Right. Yeah.
But
They did one.
all right.
I want to say last year that was a stroopwafel version. It
Ooh,
was like, oh man,
nice.
this is awesome. And I don't know if that was like a taproom only thing. I know I had ordered online and had to drive over to Holland, or I think Grand Rapids, one of their Grand Rapids tap room to pick it up, but it was definitely worth it.
So whereabouts in the state are you located at, generally
I'm
speaking?
like halfway between Ann Arbor and Detroit. So I'm in the
Okay.
southeast corner. But I'm, there's a whole bunch of stuff in Detroit, a whole bunch of stuff in Ann Arbor, and a whole bunch of stuff in between. So
Yeah, there
never
is.
at a
Yeah, there is.
loss of places to visit.
Awesome, awesome. Well, today we are going to be talking about Dunkel. So, because we're on different sides of the border, obviously, we're not going to be talking about the same exact beer, which is fine because Dunkel is Dunkel is Dunkel. So you'll have perspective on what it is you're drinking. I've just got a standard German. I've got Erdinger's Dunkel. So it's a standard worldwide. So it's an easy one to talk about. But yeah, so here's what I'm having. So I'm just gonna crack this bad boy open, let it breathe. Oh yeah, that's
That might
another
be backwards for
classic.
you, but yeah,
No, look.
they don't have a whole lot of Dunkels here right now in the states. So I was like, man, I gotta find a Dunkel.
So for people who don't know, Dunkel is a German beer. Particularly, it's from Bavaria, the Bavarian region of Germany. And Dunkel, if you're not familiar, the word means dark. So it's just a dark beer. This happens to be a dark lager, so it's going to have a flavor profile that's more akin to your lighter lager beers than it is going to be like a stout or a porter. It's just got a nice dark color. So it gets its color from malts that are kilned, and they turn a nice ruddy reddish brown color while they're being kilned, thanks to a scientific process called the Maillard effect, which gives them that kind of roasty, caramelly goodness that you get in the flavor profile for this, which makes them a perfect beer to have when you're grilling out, because charred meat also suffers from the Maillard effect. So when you're looking at it, it should be a nice dark beer. For those of you who like the statistics and the numbers, it should have a SRM of 15 to 19, which means that it's going to be dark, but it's not going to be pitch black like a stout. It should actually have kind of like a lightish brown to a slight red hue to it. As you'll see, both of us have a nice billowy head on there. It should stick around for a couple of minutes. The beer itself should be fairly clear. You might have trouble seeing through it because it's dark, but there. Yours is perfect example. The light's going through your glass, and I could see your hands through it. So,
Yep, there you go.
so
No,
yeah. So
there,
it's yeah, no, that's good. So, nice transparent color, should be fairly clean. A little bit of haze is acceptable, but for the most part, there shouldn't be any real haze to it. In terms of bitterness, there's not a whole lot. There should be a slight bit of bitter on the finish. Other than that, you should have a nice sweet, like toasted bread, like almost like the crust of a nice wheat bread. You should kind of pick up that flavor, and you might get some biscuity notes out of it as well. Typically speaking, it's a fairly low alcohol beer, anywhere from 4.5 to 5.5, I believe, is the accepted ranges. Might be a little different than that. I don't have my style guide in front of me here, just my handwritten notes, which everybody knows my handwriting is like that of a doctor. So if I get things wrong and I'm wrong, please call me out on it, Sean.
sounds good so far.
Yeah, this one's got a nice light aroma to it. This is Erdinger's Dunkel, so it's a like I said, it's a standard. They've been around forever. The beers that come over from Europe tend to be pasteurized, so they lose a little bit of their aroma and a little bit of their flavor. But it's a price you have to pay for a beer that you want to be able to drink by the time it gets over here from Europe.
Right. Yeah, this one has a lot of nice kind of caramel notes to it. Like you said, it has that kind of crusty, bready finish to it. It's just got a nice kind of sweet, malty, smooth flavor overall. So it's a nice. It's nice that they sell them in these big bottles because you're going to want to drink the whole thing.
Right? Yeah, I don't remember. I don't know what size this bottle is. That's 500 mil. So,
Yep,
um,
same here.
that's a. I mean, 500 mil is a glass for me. um, Typically, I would drink this in a fluted or vase style glass, but the two that I have are both dirty at the moment, so it's in an IPA glass, but it'll have the similar effect because it's got that narrow top, so it kind of funnels the aromas up to you and things like that. Um, but proper glassware will give you the best experience. A nonic pint like Sean has there is also perfectly acceptable if you're not worried about getting the full blast of aroma into your nose. If you just want to taste that beer, that's a perfectly acceptable pint glass for any beer, in my opinion. But that's my
Yeah, I'm a
go-to
big fan.
style. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's my go-to style of glass when I'm not being all hoity-toity and
Oh yeah,
stuff with proper glassware. I've got
for the
nonic
fruit.
pints and shaker pints as well. You know, your standard shaker pint's another great one because it's a tank. You can drop them and they don't always break.
Yeah, yeah. I really like the no nick. I like Tiku or Teku. I'm a big fan of the Tiku Teku. I call it Tiku, but I'm a big fan of those glasses. IPAs. I like to put in IPA glasses, but a no nick will always
Yep.
work.
Yeah, I also like the Teku style glass or Tiku. I don't know how it's actually supposed to be pronounced. I know the four letters in it are the
Yeah,
first and last name of the guy. You know, part of the first and last name of the guy who designed it, but I don't know how he actually pronounces it. But that's also a fantastic glass, and it's a great all around glass because it's got that goblet bottom, so the beer can expand if you don't fill the glass up a lot, but it's also got a narrow top that reflares out. So if you're trying to get something that doesn't have a whole lot of aroma, but you want to try and build it, you fill it a little higher, so it's a little farther up the glass, and yeah, you get that nice. And then it's got a stem on it a lot of the time, so you're not warming up a beer if it's like a lager that you don't want to get warm.
yeah. I've got a couple over here. It's like you said. It's nice to kind of not have to grasp it. You can hold it by the stem. You're not worried about heating it up prematurely or anything like that. I typically don't hold them very often or for very long. The beer doesn't last that long. Um,
Right.
but it's nice to have the option in case you're out someplace. You get a lot
Yeah.
of
No. Yeah.
you get a lot of comments on glassware people when you go out someplace and I like if I'm at my in-laws or something, I'm always bring a glass because they don't have like not that they don't have the technical glass for it, but it's like I like to look at it. You get a solo cup or something. You're like, it's just not the same. I'd like to see what it actually looks like.
Right. Well, yeah, same thing. My sister-in-law who lives like half hour away from us isn't a big beer drinker, so she's a wine person. She's got lots of wine glasses, which in a pinch will do great for several styles of beers. But every time I go over, I tend to bring. I have an excessive amount of glassware because I'm a beer nerd, and that's what happens. So I
Right.
take over stuff that I'm no longer using on a daily basis. I'll take over to her house, and then now I've got a shelf in one of her cupboards that's just all my beer glasses.
I forgot it at your
Yeah.
house. Sorry about that.
Uh,
I guess I'll have to
oh
use
no,
it.
there's not even a quote around. I forgot. It's like I'm leaving this here, so the next time I drink beer, I've got a glass. And she was just like, okay,
No pretense needed.
that's right. And then she started picking up glasses. She has started picking up beers. She tries to find beers that I might like that I haven't had, and if she sees a cool glass that goes along with beer, she'll pick that up as well. So I've got a few glasses over at her house that she's actually picked up for me, which is kind of cool. I mean, it's
Yeah.
always nice when someone else takes a little bit of an interest in the same thing you've got. So
Yeah, I find myself doing that with beers, not glasses so much, but with beers. And my sister-in-law, she's expressed an interest like one time or two times. So, that's her curse now is that I bring beers over all the time. And I'm like, hey, you got to try this one. I don't like
yeah, yeah.
lactose. No, you're going to love this one.
Right. Well, but that's, I mean, you and I are basically cut from the same type of cloth when it comes to that, because the purpose of my show is to educate people about different beer styles and to maybe push them outside their comfort zone to try something they might not necessarily. And yours seems like it's in a similar vein, except you're more focused on, hey, you might not have heard of this brewery that's right around the corner from you. You got to try their beer because this is good and this is good. I mean, it's the same type of thing. We're both trying to educate people and push them to try new things because, there, I've got a story that I trot out every once in a while. I was at a party. It was about 5 years ago now, maybe 6. And this guy shows up and he brings this 30 pack of Corona. And I show up and I have 3 bomber bottles of 10 plus ABV beers. One of them was an Imperial Stout. One of them was a Belgian quad. One of them was something else. And this guy's sitting there and he's like, "Oh, you only brought 3 beers with you," and he has this 30 pack. And I'm like, "Well, yeah, but my 3 beers have more booze in them than your entire 30 pack." And it's like, "Would you like to try this? You might find something you like." And by the end of the night, he was asking me where he could buy the Belgian, which was nice.
Yeah, it's always nice to kind of be able to convert somebody over. I mean, everybody likes what they like, and I try not to yuck anybody's yum, if they're into something, and everybody has different tastes, and that's what's great about this whole thing. That's why there's all these different styles of beer, but it's always nice when someone isn't really, not necessarily closed-minded, but not really open-minded to things, and they're like, "Hey, just hear me out, just try this," and you can kind of convert them a little bit, and they can ask you some more questions about, where do I get this?
Right.
What is this? And it's like, well, this is just the tip of the iceberg. We're just getting into like we're finding a needle in a haystack, but all the rest of this haystack is needles too. We can find all these other different beers. So it's cool to kind of have somebody that's open-minded enough to be able to try something that
Yeah. When I was younger, I used to shit on people who drank nothing but macro beer. And as I've gotten older, I've realized, that was dumb. If that's what you like, that's what you like. If you're just looking for something to drink and you want something that's going to refresh you, but not necessarily have a whole lot of flavor, great. Drink your Bud, drink your Coors, whatever. But don't be afraid to try other things. You don't have to drink it all the time, but at least if someone goes, "Hey, I've got this Belgian, would you like to try it?" And you're like, "Yeah, I've had one of those before, and it was actually pretty good. I'll try this one." Yeah, it's always good to at least expand your horizons a little bit. At least that way you can say, "Yeah, I've tried that and I don't like it," or, "Oh yeah, I liked that one." You're not just like refusing it just on principle. You just,
Yeah, the worst thing that's going to happen is you didn't like it.
Right. The worst thing, the worst thing is someone gives you 4 ounces of beer and you're like, "No, you can have 3 ounces of it back."
Right. Here you go. I'm good.
For people who might be interested, like I said, proper glassware for this is a fluted or vase style glass. Proper serving temperature is 45 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 7.5 to 12 degrees Celsius for those of us living north of the U.S. border.
I was glad you said Fahrenheit first, because I was not going to know.
Yeah. Well, it all depends on who my guest is, which one goes first. So you're a U.S. guest, so I said Fahrenheit first.
I appreciate that. I would
if you're looking
no
for
clue.
Yeah. Well, what's funny? It's one of the things when I moved up here, everyone's like, "Oh, it's going to be so hard because it's all the metric system." I'm like, I was a science major in college. I learned the metric system and I learned how to convert in my head. So no, it's really not going to be that big of a deal for me. And then I move up here and like half the people still have everything in Fahrenheit anyway.
Yeah. The only thing I have trouble with, like, meter close to a yard, stuff like that. It's the temperature. I think the temperature is like the worst one. Like, oh, how do I convert?
Yeah. The formula for converting that is, it's like some goofy thing, but I've been doing it long enough that I pretty much know about what's what, especially when it comes to beer stuff, because I talk about it all the time.
That's a good translation layer right there.
Yeah. People who might be interested, good food pairings to go along with the Dunkel. As I already said, was if you're doing a cookout, your burgers, your steaks, pork, like roasted pork loin or a pork chop or sausages like a bratwurst. I mean, roasted vegetables. And if you're looking for a cheese to go with it, like a Munster style cheese, something fairly mild that's not going to step all over the light flavor that this has. And if you're looking for a dessert, ginger desserts, so like a gingerbread or candied ginger or something like that, something light that's going to be a contrasting flavor that's going to play off of it would do quite nicely.
Yeah, I could definitely see gingerbread going with this. When you said that, I was like, that's a perfect like sweet pairing for it.
Yeah, and like ginger snap cookies are great too, because you get that little bit of bite from the ginger, but you're still getting the sweet from the sugar that's on the cookie and things like that. So it pairs quite well with it. But yeah, so like I said earlier, color should be light brown to dark brown with a slight red hue. Clarity should be clear to slightly hazy. Most commercial examples, unless it's coming from a craft brew, is going to be very clear. Craft breweries don't tend to filter their beer as much as the large commercial breweries, so you might get some haze if you're buying it from one of them. Carbonation on this should be medium to medium high. Visually, it should be about a medium. You should see some bubbles when you first pour it out, but they shouldn't last for too long. The flavor and aroma of alcohol should be mild. You shouldn't really get a whole lot of alcohol flavor on this. And hop flavors and aromas should be pretty much non-existent on this because you're just getting all the flavors from the aromas from the malts. The hops are literally just there to balance out the sweetness.
Yep, I'd say this is everything you described is what, yeah, definitely getting that out of this one. I don't think I've
Yeah.
ever had this before either, so it's a pleasant surprise.
You've got what, an Ehringer? Is that the one you've got there?
Yep.
Yeah. They're another one of the old school Dunkels you can pretty much find everywhere. This as far as mouthfeel and finish, you should have a medium body that kind of coats your mouth and leaves a little bit of a residue. And the finish should be medium. So you drink it and it sticks around for a second or two after you're done swallowing, and then your mouth's just like, "Hey man, can I have some more?"
That's the best kind of beer too. You know,
It is. It really is. You. Yep. So yeah, this typically the hops that they use are the old school German noble hops, and malts tend to be like Munich malt or Carafa malts. Some of the old school, been around forever malt styles. And it's as I said earlier, it's a lager, so that means that it's fermented at lower temperatures, which means it takes longer to ferment. And as we all know, the longer something takes to ferment, the less money a brewery makes from it sitting around. So breweries that make lagers, you got to give your hat off to them, because they're taking up valuable space and wasting money if they're making lagers for their customers, because you can turn an ale around in like 2 weeks, whereas a lager you're talking at least a month, if not more, if not 3-4 months.
We have a local brewery around here, well, actually in Ann Arbor, and they are exclusively lager. They make, they'll make crazy different kinds of lagers. I actually have one right here. This isn't super crazy, but this is a dark lager. It's a imperial barrel-aged dark lager, and they do it every year.
Nice.
It's delicious. And they do, like I said, they're exclusively lager. So it's like you said, hats off, because it's going to take longer. But they just do so many interesting things. That particular one, it's called Massacre. I know for fests, and I think when they release it, they have like a little party at the brewery. It's called Wolverine State Brewing, and they'll do variants on that one. So they'll do like a Mexican chocolate. They'll do, I don't know, 4 or 5 every year, and it's really cool to see that they, take the time to do a dark lager. It's a barrel aged, so it's even longer.
It's even longer, yeah.
On it. Yeah, so it's cool to kind of get the different flavors of that, and they're amazing. They're all great.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I have a friend who owns a brewery in the Milwaukee area, and they do a couple different lagers, and it's like he's like, yeah, I can push out my stouts and my other stuff, like in 3-4 weeks I can have stuff being pushed out and people are drinking it. The lager in 3-4 weeks, well, it's just getting started on its fermenting, and it might sit for another couple of months, and he's got, so he doesn't have a huge system. I think he's got a 5-barrel system with several tanks, but if you've got 2 lagers going, that's 2 tanks you can't use for your other beers. So and depending on the style of lager, if you're doing like a pilsner or like a blonde or something like that, there's no place to hide your mistakes in those beers either. So you really have to be on point with them.
Yeah,
a Dunkel. A Dunkel is a little easier to hide stuff in because of the malt that they use. It's got that little bit of extra flavor to it. But again, you're not going to be able to hide a whole lot of problems with it because that malt's only going to hide so much.
Yeah.
So tell me, Sean, shout outs to any breweries there in Michigan who you think make exceptional beer. Give me
Uh,
two or three.
that's hard to limit it to two or three.
Okay, then give me six or eight or a dozen.
Okay. All right. So I've got a couple that are smaller and on both sides of the state. There's a place that has only been, I've done a couple videos on their stuff. I've done an interview with their brewer, but they're called Loaded Dice. They're in Troy, Michigan. They've been around just for about a year and a half. It's all open source, so all their recipes are available. Um,
Nice.
it they do amazing beer. For how small it is, it's like one of those places where the guy he works a second. He doesn't work a second job. The brewery is his second job, but he's brewing every day just to kind of keep up with the pace of everything. So, they're in Troy, Michigan. They do amazing stuff. On the west side of the state, well, near the west side, Kalamazoo, Wax Wings is a brewery that they do. They really cashed in, I think, on the New England style. When New England started getting really big, they were really doing well with those. But they also do a lot of fruited sours. They do fruited stouts. They are starting a lager program, barrel aged lagers and stuff like that. Just crazy amounts of stuff. And they do great work. That's one of those things. Michigan, you can't ship beer to the state. I don't even think you can ship it in the state. If you get it delivered, it has to be like a local place. They have to drive it out to you. And there are a few places that actually do that from all around the state. They'll drive, to the bigger counties and drop beer off. And Wax Wings is one where I would order it online. That's like a 2-hour drive for me, and I don't have a problem driving over there to pick up beer because it's generally it's just that good. Some of the bigger ones, we have Brew Detroit in Detroit. They are a contract brewery, but they do their own beer too. They have like their own pilot system where they do 12. Well, I don't know how big their system is for their pilot stuff or their own stuff, but they are able to kick out their beer, and it's really high quality and a lower price point. So you're looking at, even for like their top notch, high level beer, it's a 4-pack for $11-12, which nowadays is pretty cheap. And
Pretty
they do a
cheap,
lot
yeah.
of yeah, they do a lot of different stuff. Like I said, they do contract work for other breweries, so they do that, and they do their own stuff on the side. Uh, Around here, we have Ascension, which is in Novi. They do a lot of great stuff. They do a lot of the New Englands. They do a lot of IPAs, a lot of stouts, a lot of barrel aged stouts. They do a lot of just all over the place, but they do great beer just across the board. Um, that's just a couple. I mean, I could go on and on. I talk about Michigan beer all the time. So another
Yeah,
one that I'll
hey.
mention just briefly is Drafting Table in Wixom. They are, again, another kind of jack of all trade and master of all of them. It's not like a jack of all trade, master of none. They do great amounts of beer. They just did a gin barrel pilsner, which was gin barrel aged pilsner, which was really good. They do a really great couple barrel aged stouts. They call them I think there's a couple. There's like Mean Vanilla Bean. They do these mean versions, and they'll do all these different kind of barrel aged stuff. They do great West Coast IPAs. They do great, milkshake IPAs, New England style IPAs. They do, stuff that's more fruited sours and just all over the place. They just do a lot of great beer. I feel kind of spoiled because there's so many places that are so close that I enjoy going to. It's hard to get to all of them because you're like, all right, today I have, everything around here is so spread out. So it's like we don't think of things in miles, we think of things in time. How long it takes to get places. So,
Yep.
well, I can get to St. Clair Shores. That's 45 minutes from here. Or I could go to Lansing. That's an hour. There's all these places in Lansing that are great. So, uh, yeah, there's just too many places to even mention. Just a
Yeah.
lot of
Well,
places.
it's a very similar situation for us here in Ontario as well. I mean, we've got, I think as of the end of last year, I think we were up to like 800 breweries in Ontario. I mean, Ontario is huge. It's
Right.
it's much larger than Michigan is in terms of physical size. So we also
Right.
measure things in time, not necessarily in distance. It's like, oh, well, Sawdust City, that's only a 3 hour drive, and on the way there, I can hit this, and I can hit this, and I can hit this. Yeah, that sounds like a perfect day trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I'm a big barrel aged stout and high ABV kind of guy. And as I said, I'm originally from the States, and when things aren't in lockdown states like they have been, I travel frequently back and forth to visit friends and family in Illinois. So I cut through Michigan. I come through in Port Huron. I go down through Lansing and over into Indiana. That. So can you think of one or two breweries that are like a must stop for me the next time I'm going through?
Are you going along, you think
I take
75
what
to 94 or?
I take is it 69 to
Okay.
94? So, but I'm not opposed to going an hour or two either direction from 69 or
Yeah.
94 to
Not
get good
totally
beer.
committed to it. Man, I was just looking. I have this just spray of all these different bottles and cans and all this stuff from all the different breweries. I would definitely say Wax Wings in Kalamazoo. It's a little bit. It's off 94, so by the time you get to 69, that meets in like Marshall, I think.
Yeah, I actually
Um,
go through Kalamazoo on my way. So,
yeah, Wax Wings is great. There's another place in Kalamazoo called One Well. They do they have a little bit more stuff. That's one of those places where you go in and they have like 20 beers on tap, and you're like, I even on if I take two flights, I'm not going to be able to try everything you have. But they have a lot of to go stuff, so that's great. You can mix and match. It's not you don't have to buy 4 packs of everything. You can and I have.
nice.
You mix and match stuff. They have like tequila barrel aged sours and stuff like that. So I really like that style. I think that's a good complement to each other. Um,
That they really are.
yeah, it's great to have that kind of saltiness and the tequila, that like agave kind of dryness, and you get it with
Yep.
the sour that might kind of add a little tinge to it. Geez, what else? Um, there was one on. There's one off of 96 in South Lyon. It is called Witch's Hat, and they do every year. They do a festival. It's called Fury for a Feast, and they do this. They release their Night Fury is their stout, and they will do like a Trax version, that's like a peanut butter version of that Night Fury stout, or like a barrel aged peanut butter version. They do all these different barrel aged versions of this beer, so they're a good place to hit up if you're into stouts. Wow,
Most
what else?
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many places. You know, you're kind of 94. You're not really hitting Grand Rapids, but then Grand Rapids is this whole another thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you could spend. That's like Chicago. You could spend a whole day or a whole week,
multiple
and
yeah multiple
hitting all the
days.
different places. There's
Yep.
so much stuff. Geez, I'm trying to think. Have you ever been in Lansing? There's a place called Ellison, and they do. They have a lot of barrel aged stouts right now. Like specifically right now, this is like their season. I think they do stuff around
It's
Black Friday,
it's
and they
that
have
time of year. Yes.
yeah, they do a couple really good ones. That I was just in Lansing actually yesterday, and I was like, but it's one of those things. It's like I want to. You have, they have 5 different things or 6 different barrel aged stouts that you can buy, and it's like one can is $15, and you're like, I mean, it's good, but do I want to walk away spending $100 and getting like 6 cans of beer? So it's
Yeah.
one of those, you gotta think it out. You gotta budget it out. You can lose your ass pretty quick hitting all
Well,
these different places and trying everything out.
I mean, to be fair, I did just place an order for 4 bottles of beer from a brewery up in northern Ontario that are $49 a bottle.
Yeah,
Because
so tough.
it's a once a year limited edition type thing, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna buy some, and the nice thing is, you buy a few of them, you drink one or two up front, and then you let the other ones sit, and you see how
Yep.
they age for a year or two. Like I've got one left over from last year's batch that I'm gonna be cracking probably right around Christmas time just to see how it aged, things like that.
Yeah,
But
I just love the
I'm
process of cracking a bomber or something and sharing it with a couple people. Oh, and then you can talk about it. That's like one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, one of our favorite things to do is to buy barrel aged beers for multiple years, and do like a vertical flight. So like we've got some out in the cooler right now, out in the beer cooler, from 2016 up through 2021 of a Pinot barrel aged imperial stout. So at Christmas we're going to pull out all of them, and we're going to do a vertical flight for 5 years worth of beer. It's and it's going to be one of those. There's going to be three of us sitting around, and by the time we're done, we're all going to be very happy individuals.
There's a lot worse ways to spend your time, that's for sure.
Yes, yeah. So for us, the holidays, we spend most of our holidays with my sister-in-law, because my wife and her are the only two surviving members of their family, and all of my family is in the States. So it's typically a pretty small gathering. So there's typically three of us and lots of booze, and you know how it goes when there's three people and lots of booze.
Lots of memories are made. You might not remember them all, but they were made.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, we are at the point of the show where it's time to say goodbye. We've been talking for a little over a half an hour. I'd really like to thank Sean from Draft Therapy for being on the show. If people want to find you, Sean, how do they find you out on the interwebs?
Probably the easiest way is just go to drafttherapy.com. If you want to check out my YouTube page, it is youtube.drafttherapy.com. And yeah, everything's up there. I'm on Instagram. All the stuff. If you watch any of my videos, I have little tags for all my handles on all the different places. It's pretty much Draft Therapy on all the different social platforms. I post Instagram stuff. I'll post new beers or whatever, but primarily it's Instagram and YouTube. Yeah, you can just drafttherapy.com or youtube.drafttherapy.com will take you right to my YouTube page.
Excellent. So if you're planning on being in Michigan, or if you want to plan a trip to Michigan and you want to do it beer related, I suggest hitting up his pages. Give him some love, and check him out. I'm sure you'll find places you want to visit, places you want to buy stuff from, places you might want to retire to if you really, really like beer.
Worst case, if you reach out to me on any place on YouTube and you have questions about breweries in the area, that's probably the best way to get any of those questions answered. And I love talking about it, obviously, so feel free to reach out that way too.
Excellent. All right. Well, if you've enjoyed this video, please like it. I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe and or share this video with your friends. If you have any questions for me, feel free to leave them in the comments below. If you have questions for Sean, you can either leave them in the comments below and I'll forward them on, or you can hit him up on his pages, and I'm sure he'll be happy to answer them, as I'm always happy to answer questions. If you have any suggestions for a beer style or topic you'd like to have discussed on my show, please leave that in the comments section below. Other than that, hey, I'm Rob from the internet. Cheers.